How do you follow up one of the most successful guitar ranges in the past 10 years? Well, today I'm going to show you. Let's check out the brand new Fender Player II range. The Fender Player range is the kind of flagship Mexican model in the Fender line. It's kind of known all across the world as that first step into kind of full-blown Fender. Started off as the Mexican standard many years ago and moved to the Player range. Actually not too many years ago, but what Fender kind of did with that was make that Mexican standard range just that little bit better with a lot of really welcome additions to these guitars. Now, kind of to give you a bit of a spoiler just right off the bat here, Fender haven't done too much to actually change these guitars because, as I said, they were already really good, and certainly when it was that first kind of step into the Fender world, they were kind of ticking all the boxes when it came to, a Strat, a Tele, and even some of their offset models, which we will touch on a little bit later as well. But with this brand new Player II range, they have added a couple of things that make these incredible guitars just that little bit better as well, and we'll go through all of those changes within this video. Now, as always, we do split it up into chapters, so if you do particularly want to see a certain model, we're going to be looking at the 3 single coil Stratocaster today, the HSS Stratocaster, and the 2 single coil Telecaster as well. So if you do want to check any of them out, all the chapters are in the description below, as well as the timeline as well as the equipment that we used for today's video. But let's just dive in with the classic Stratocaster first, shall we? So let's get some shared features out the way first, just to kind of make this a little bit quicker as we're going through, because I think in all honesty, it's the sound and the playability of these guitars that really does shine through. So with the Stratocaster models, we're looking at all their bodies. They have the classic modern C neck shape as well, which has been very popular across a lot of the Fender lines, including the American Pro and the Player Series as well. The Stratocaster comes in a couple of different configurations of these pickups. Obviously, we have the classic SSS configuration there, an HSS, which I'm going to move on to just in a little bit. You may see them kind of behind me there as well. And they are all Alnico 5, as opposed to the HSS, which has got an Alnico 2 humbucker in it, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. But let's just check out how the sounds of that are just now. I'm going through our Victory jack head with a matching cab, and I've got a couple of, I've got a delay and I've got a reverb here as well, the Laney Black Country Custom Secret Path and an Echoplex as well, just add a little bit of flavour to there. They're just going through the effects loop. So I'll just make my way through the pickups here. So just with the clean there, that was, I think, giving us that sort of quintessential Strat sound there. But what I particularly like about the fact that they put Alnico 5 magnets into these pickups is that they do kind of cover a little bit more than just your sort of spanky Strat sounds. Now, you know, that's kind of, I wouldn't say that's the main draw, certainly, of a Stratocaster, but for me, this, like, that sound is so iconic, especially, you know, those 2 and 4 positions there. You kind of get that sort of quacky thing on the go. But of course, if you do stick a little bit of dirt on that, because these are just that little bit more, I guess, kind of modern sounding, I would say, you know, they're not particularly kind of vintage voiced, but because, you know, Strat's a Strat sort of thing, you are getting a lot of that out. So even if I chuck on just that kind of the highest gain that we can go with, you'll hear what I mean, and I'll kind of play like slightly more riffy stuff with this. You know, it's still kind of got that like real Strat sort of kind of aggression to it, especially with that bridge single coil there as well, but it doesn't sound weak in any way. Like, certainly depending on, you know, the way that you are kind of EQing your amp and all that sort of stuff, then you can get it a lot sharper, you can get it a lot kind of warmer as well. And actually, one of the things that they've continued over from, and it's one of the things that I really, really appreciate, is the tone control on the kind of back end there. That does control the tone for your bridge single coil there, which on more vintage kind of style Strats, the 2 tones are just going to control your neck and your middle. But I'm glad to see that Fender have continued that on there, because that can really tame a bridge single coil. Let me just stick on a couple of bits here as well, and we'll just go full open, and then I'll kind of roll it off a bit and you'll see what I mean with that. Which, you know, depending on your kind of taste, that might come in real handy. But for me, you see the ability just to be able to roll that off, that makes such a huge difference. Looking into some of the differences, funnily enough, of the Player 2 here as well, because I've already went over kind of what is similar. But one of the, well, several of the kind of key features that they have changed with this guitar is we now have rolled fingerboard edges on all of the necks here, which Previously, it used to be quite a premium option for a lot of guitars, and it's very well known on their, I was just looking to see if I had one of the Ultra Strats in here as well, but it's on that, it's on a lot of custom shop models as well, and it essentially just means that there's a little bit of extra work done to the necks, just to kind of roll them that little bit so it's not just such a hard sort of edge to the fret. Super, super comfy. You should get it in your hand to really, really feel it. And another huge difference as well with the Player Series is that we now have the return of Rosewood boards, which I think a lot of people will be very, very excited to see. I personally am a bit of a maple man, but I do appreciate a good Rosewood board as well. And these are on all of the models that you can get your hands on. So those who prefer that to Palfero, then you will certainly be rejoicing. Slight difference that they've made with the tuning pegs as well here. These are the more kind of classic slot in the top ones there, which as opposed to, you know, the kind of traditional go through and then wind up, you need to cut these and put them in the top as well. Just gives it that slightly more vintage vibe. And of course, there are some brand new colours to talk about as well. This one in my lap is the Coral Red, which I'm a huge fan of. It's giving big Simon Neil from Biffy Clyro vibes of this one, but I'll just quickly show you some of the other models here as well, some of the new colours. So this model is called Hylia Yellow. It replaces Buttercream. This one here is Aquatone Blue, which is this kind of almost like turquoisey sort of colour, which big fan of. That looks really, really cool. And then we have Birch Green as well, which just this model here. Again, these are available in all of the Stratocasters, the Teles, the basses, the offsets. And actually there is another style that we will touch on because they're going to be released a little bit later this year, but there are going to be some chambered models with the Player II series, which essentially just means that they are chambered bodies are going to be a lot lighter, a wee bit like an Area with their tone. But with the Telecaster particularly, I was going to wait until I touched on that, but because we're talking about colours right now, you don't get a butterscotch colour with the traditional, well, just with the kind of standard Player II Telecaster. They've kept that for the chambered model, which seems a bit of a strange move personally, just because that's kind of your iconic one, but it just means if you do want that, you check out the chambered model, of course. Couple of extra bits as well. Obviously, we do have the 2-point trim, which is kind of a classic sort of move that they've been doing on their more modern sort of guitars. And then just, you know, the kind of standard, I think these are medium jumbos, frets on those as well. All the links will be down below to get a proper kind of look at the specs, because we're just going to kind of focus on a little bit more sounds with this. Actually, I'm just kind of jumping about a wee bit as well, but I did mean to mention, sorry, with the colours, you get your kind of classic 3-tone sunburst, which actually has now got a really cool black guard on it. I'll show you on the telly here. Again, you're getting the kind of spoiler with that one. But that's such a cool looking guitar. I'm always a fan of that configuration. And you get your classic black, you get a polar white as well, which has also got a black guard on it. It's kind of all your kind of classic Fender colours, but they've just made a little bit of a difference to, you know, slight changes to their kind of classic, you know, colours that we'd expect. You know, every Strat line needs a red, a blue, and a green, and all that sort of stuff. So it kind of just differentiates them from the previous models. And it's important to say with the Strats as well, before I move on to the HSS, is there isn't an HSH model in this year's lineup. So that would be a humbucker, a single, and a humbucker at the neck there. So all you Iron Maiden fans out there may be a bit sad, but of course, the beauty of your Stratocaster and a lot of Fenders is that you can kind of mod them to however you see fit. So let's have a quick look at the HSS model, and I'll choose the blue for this. Because not only has it got the maple neck variation on it as well, but I do just quite like that colour as well. Now, as I mentioned, that is an Alnico 2 humbucker in the bridge there, which is going to be that slightly more kind of vintage voiced. You're not going to be obviously in like proper like screaming kind of metal territory. But then saying that, let's just check it out with full gain and see how it is handling. which I don't think anybody's saying that that is weak or sort of, you know, vintage inspired in itself. It just gives you that sort of like kind of room to go up. It's not just all in your face consistently, and it means that, you know, if you are playing this on a clean at all, it's not going to be too overbearing, because this is just going right through the clean channel on the bridge humbucker here. Which, you know, you can kind of clean that up if you want to as well. And that's one thing I didn't actually try there as well, is on the crunch, just rolling that volume down ever so slightly. So. So there's definitely scope there to, if you do want to kind of be on that edge of breakup or even a crunch channel, just to be able to use your volume control to be able to kind of maintain that, or manage that, sorry. If you want to kind of come down, you want to go up, then that can act almost as your like boost pedal or something like that. And the fact that, you know, it's not a super punch in the face humbucker as well, unless you really want to, of course, you can just dial in a bunch more gain to it. It does just, I think it's the sort of best case scenario for a Stratocaster, because for me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of that kind of bridge single coil. I think it does sound really good, and actually with these new Player 2s as well, it's maybe one of the most well-rounded and least sort of spiky sounding bridge singles that I've had the experience with. But the mod to change that to a humbucker, I think, just gives an already incredibly versatile guitar just even more versatility as well, because it means that you can kind of get those much thicker sounds out of it while still being able to get your single coil sounds out the middle and the neck. And that sort of change from, or the reason to not include the HSH configuration, maybe is because the Strat is just so iconic with that neck single coil. It just sounds so good. And I just, in case I haven't as well, I've not tried the full distortion on the neck here, just for some kind of solo-y bits. So kind of get everything you need out of that, to be fair. So if you do want that, obviously slight more kind of the ability to get a bit more kind of ruckus, I guess, a bit more rocky, then the HSS is definitely an option. And I guess it's probably a good opportunity just to kind of highlight the maple board there as well. This still includes the rolled fingerboard edges, the kind of classic tuners on there as well. It does come in all of the color variations. So I guess let's move on to the Telecaster and see what that's got going. So as I mentioned earlier, the specs are kind of shared across the board. So what we're expecting with the Telecaster can be very much similar to the Strat, in the sense that It's an older body, you've got Rosewood options, you've got maple options there. We've got Alnico 5 pickups in as well, and all the colour variations are available, including this, which actually this was my Mexican standard Telecaster that I got. Had a white guard on it. It was a 3-tone sunburst that when I was like 14 or something, and I replaced it out for a black guard because, I mean, I think that's just the kind of the cooler option of it. Let me know down in the comments if you do agree with that. But let's just check out these pickups and see what we've got on offer. Which I think you'll agree that that's very, very classic Telecaster sort of sounding. But of course, much like the Alnico 5 pickups that are in the Strat, this thing can handle, you know, a really good bit of gain as well, and especially kind of if you're into like your more kind of aggressive, like kind of emo-y sort of stuff as well. A Telecaster through some really good distortion is always an absolute winner in my books, to be fair. So I guess the world's first electric guitar is very much in the conversation for versatility and what you can really do with it as well, because there's just something about kind of a single coil Telecaster with a bunch of distortion behind it that's just punches you right in the face, to be fair. It's not as abrasive as that bridge single coil on a Strat, although that very well may be your thing. But of course it does handle all of its cleans and stuff really, really amazing. And you can get this in the Rosewood option, as I've mentioned, if that's more your bag. But actually as well, with the Player 2 launch, it's a good opportunity for me to talk about kind of what's coming down the road, because there is a kind of phased launch for these guitars to really give them kind of their time in the sun. For the first launch of the video that you're watching either on the launch day or a little bit down the line as well, we've got the Stratocasters, HSS Strat and the single coil Strat, along with the single coil Telecaster, and of course the two giants of the bass world, which is a P bass and a jazz bass. But what we've got coming further down the line are actually, we've got offsets, we've got a Jazzmaster, we have a Jaguar, and we've got a Mustang, all those looking amazing with the options of the same colours, but a couple of differences to them as well, and obviously all the changes that they've made across the board with their old fingerboard edges and the return of Rosewood. There is also a dual HH Telecaster coming down the line as well that will, I would hope, have the coil split on them as well, so you can still get these kind of classic Tele sounds out of them. And I've already mentioned the chambered models, so keep an eye out on our channel because we'll definitely be doing some reviews as soon as they drop later in the year. It's kind of going to be the year of Fender, which I'm very, very excited to see those models. But that kind of covers it in terms of a very quick look at the brand new Player 2 range. Much like the Player 1 series, I guess, we can now start to call that. I can see these being around for quite a few years until obviously there's any changes, but what I really like about these is the fact that I think Fender have listened to the players, and maybe these slightly sort of incremental changes on them have just been sort of feedback that have been coming towards these guitars, and it just like it steps them up just that little bit as well, just in terms of their playability and their premium and whatnot, because I wouldn't see any problem with taking this out and playing it every single night on the road. You know, maybe kind of change those out for lock-in tuners, but that's a personal preference for me. But whether it be the Strat, whether it be the Tele, I think you're going to find yourself a really solid guitar. And actually that kind of first step into the Fender family, I think you're going to be kind of sitting at that base for a good long while as well, because as you start moving up to the other models, yes, you will start to get things like noiseless pickups in there. The Vintera range, obviously a bit more vintage inspired, but kind of these are starting to blur the lines ever so slightly with them. And comparing these to maybe your first step into the American models, the gap is that little bit closer, I would say. Like, you know, you are getting your advantages with that and the fact that they are made in the American factory, but the Mexican factory have really been producing some amazing guitars recently as well. So if you have a new Fender in mind, get one of these in your hands before you try any of the other ones, or try them along with the other ones that you're looking at, because these will really surprise you at just the level of quality that's coming out of them and the sounds that you can get out of them too. But let me know what you think about the brand new Player 2 series in the comments down below, and if you have liked the video at all, give us a like and a subscribe because it really does help the page. But until next time, when we're looking at the next couple of phases of these guitars, I've been Kieran, and this has been a very quick look at the brand new Fender Player 2 series electric guitars. Have a great day.